worked. It worked. It
Let's
worked.
go.
It worked. Oh my god, it worked. Hey
Is
guys,
there
and welcome to our podcast. I think the overarching goal of this podcast will be to figure out a name for our podcast. Um, and me and Ritik, well, I should probably introduce guys first. So, four of us are friends from high school, but most of us are in college now. Um, we have Gautam, who is red. I am gray. I don't know. Ewan's blue and Ritik's pink. You'd be happy with that color, wouldn't you, Ritik?
I
Anyway,
am actually.
so, what you guys want to say hi or something?
Hey. So,
Yeah. So the game we're playing is called Psychedelics and Catan. And should I keep up with this fake ass voice, guys? I don't know.
yeah, I didn't know your voice only changed.
Should I ditch it?
No,
Like
keep
your
it.
podcast voice.
No.
Yeah,
I quite liked it.
we like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll keep it. I'll hang on to it. But we will actually be talking about something other than the game. But I have to channel my brain power into this right now. Okay,
Okay,
but
sweet.
how it's gonna go is every week or so we're gonna record a podcast, and for every week someone comes up with a topic, and he doesn't tell the rest of the people, and
Oh.
he does the announcement. And this week it's me picking the topic,
Oh.
and the topic is drugs.
Okay.
Before you guys
Excellent.
it's psychedelics. It's funny, Gotham, you joked about this before we
I
started.
did.
You did. But kind of informed and inspired by Michael Pollan's new book on psychedelics. That I read and is super fun. But kind of just want to start like open for what do you guys think? Like past knowledge, experiences. I don't know what Ewan's been up to in Korea, but like let him know.
Well, first of all, are you a narc? You have to answer if you're a narc.
I'm a narc. No, this totally isn't like an undercover police operation. It's definitely not like this.
You did
Hey,
go missing for 6 months.
I definitely did not drop out of college and go on a 6 month CIA training program. That's definitely not what happened.
Just need a list of what drugs you did, when you did them, and who you did them with.
Yeah, names and phone numbers later.
One second. Yeah, obviously, like in Korea, there's absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Oh my goodness. In Catan, either I get screwed by others or I get screwed by myself. I cannot win.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's cool. I've always advocated for complete legalization, but then just regulation. It's the same way we do with alcohol or anything else.
Right. Yeah. So like the book actually has a honestly fucking 7. Anyway, a super interesting account of the history of psychedelics and how like perceptions have changed over the years and like the little wild events that took place um for like history to shake out how it did. But like along the lines of legalization, there's a lot of new hope for like at least the decriminalization of psychedelics because they're applying it to like a lot of research in treating like mental health conditions. That's really interesting. That kind of like psychedelic, what kind of results that psychedelic therapy is like, I don't know, coming up with.
I think the most important thing is allowing it to be accessible for researchers. In the end, it's research that will determine whether it's dangerous or not, right?
Yeah.
In the long term, in the short term, like what it does to people.
Uh-huh.
I feel like we can only make a fair and valid judgment once we have, you know, a good amount of information on it.
But like that's the beautiful part. We had like a whole generation that took like hella psychedelics back in the day, and we can study the effects now. And there's actually like a wealth of research back in the day before it was like criminalized in the like 70s, I think.
Right.
So like there's a lot of really interesting research out there. But like totally agree. And like that was one of my like I think Gotham and I we talked about this a while ago, but talked about like the legalization of weed and how like because of the like stigma and the lack of federal funding, there hasn't been like enough research into the long-term effects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we really miss out because of that.
For sure.
I
And
think
just
the issue with having something like that is you're gonna have um, you're gonna have companies that sell weed obviously promote its health benefits and stuff,
Mhm.
leave out any potential hazards because either know about them and don't want to share them, or most
Yeah.
probably don't even know about them because there hasn't been enough research on it.
Mm-hmm.
The issue with that is we've made it legal now. Not only have we made it legal, but we advertise it as completely safe and completely harmless and just, like, do it and nothing will happen without a full understanding of what the long-term effects are. So now when you have people buying weed, smoking weed, and it's very accessible now, it could be dooming an entire generation in the future to
Yeah.
things like any mental diseases they might develop.
Yeah.
Right.
Some like worrying things about psychosis that we've seen, but wow, the Rob is really cocking me right now.
Yeah,
Um,
dude.
but yeah, hit it. Who was that?
That was me. So
Yeah.
they kind of went all out and they legalized it completely instead of just like legalizing it just for research and getting extensive
Mm-hmm.
research done. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
an all or nothing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Seems kind of foolish.
Yeah. But there's actually for like the longest time when like the federal government shut down every single like psychedelics research like center, I guess. There's like one that was allowed and it's been like operating for like so long in like Baltimore, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um and they've had some like really promising results treating and in other places as well, but treating people who are like terminally sick and they have like depression stemming from like existential like dread and questions and stuff. And I think that's so interesting. And like the like Michael Pollan like interviews some of the people and the kind of like stuff they talk about is like wild.
Um,
Yeah.
and it also, I mean, we've all heard how it helps veterans with their PTSD.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, veterans should be able to do whatever they want, like drug wise. After,
Yeah,
especially if they've seen combat and stuff, like
yeah.
it's just they can just chill.
Mm-hmm.
What's there's there's obviously seems around the world to be like irrationality around the legalization of drugs and things like this.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that stem from? Like even just like in an American context, why why is there this irrational cultural resistance?
Well, that's like the crazy thing. So there was actually like the culture was like in a huge way opening up to like this kind of thing. The like first person who like really like brought this psychedelics renaissance to America was actually this like New York banker from like Chase
Oh.
Bank or something like that who like went to Mexico and did these mushrooms. But well like the way it went downhill was there's like infamous this really infamous like professor at Harvard who is running this wild program where he would damn god man popping off at that like infrastructure building where he
That's
would
all I
like
have.
hand out psychedelics to undergrads and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, they would yeah, so like created a big scandal, and then like there was the whole Nixon or Reagan, I'm not sure, war on drugs. They wanted to like suppress the counterculture, and they could do that by like stigmatizing like weed and psychedelics, which is associated with like the hippie and the like Dove movement.
Isn't a big part of it also cutting off the supply chain for the cartels? Sorry, the demand for drugs from Mexico.
For sure. I mean, like, maybe I should like clear up the definition of psychedelics, because like totally like a lot of like weed and like I don't know cocaine. Not sure it comes in from Mexico, but like psychedelics are more like LSD,
Like,
MDMA, like magic mushrooms. DMT, ayahuasca, and stuff like that. Which like I'm not sure like neuroscientifically how, I don't remember, but he goes into the book. He goes into it in the book, and like while I think like the history chapters of the book are super interesting, I think the neuroscience chapters really kill it. Because like not only do they talk about psychedelics, but they also talk about like a general theory of like a lot of mental health illnesses, like mental health conditions like depression and anxiety, and like I guess their theory about psychedelics and how they've helped with those conditions kind of plays into this overarching general theory, which I mean I may or may not go into. I don't know if that's what you guys are into. Ritik, you've been silent the entire time. What?
Just been waiting for all you guys to talk, and I've been constantly being messaged by Gotham to say something. And
Just making sure
Ritik's
you're
been,
all right, still here.
Ritik's been getting
yeah.
some feedback from me as well about what a bitch he's being
Oh,
on the
yeah.
Catan board.
Oh yeah,
I
I
think
see that as well.
that's
Yeah,
the
I see
bigger
that as
problem
well.
here.
I'm getting absolutely destroyed.
Anyone need stone?
I need
No,
grain.
I need sheep.
I need sheep as well.
I can do wood if someone gives grain.
I Oh, you can give wood. Oh no, never mind. Anyway, yeah. I think Ewan sent this to me. There was this stoned ape. Um, something. I'm
Theory.
forgetting the title, which was
Stone
a
ape theory?
scientific study, correct?
The stone ape theory, yes.
And so yeah, and about how the psychedelics had so they were apes that were put on psychedelics, and then they were measured through an MRI.
Right.
Was it?
I think the stoned ape theory is more a theory to explain the huge jump in brain size that human beings had. Well, that we had in our evolution from some time back. There's like a 2 million year window in which we doubled our brain mass, I think, or volume. But I think it's probably volume because that's probably how they measured it. But and they think it's because apes ate psychedelic mushrooms that they thought were food because the mushrooms would have looked like these huge kind of plates, and it was apparently through some drought, and so they ate these mushrooms, and the guys who ate it became more heroic, more brave, kind of went after the any competition and stuff like that. So they survived because the ladies liked that. And so we just had this huge thing where everyone was super high on serotonin and everyone was brave. And so that doubled our brain size because we evolved at an accelerated rate.
Yeah, and like they went into it in the book, and they also talked about how it might have like how we might have evolved our like or like our idea or I guess our like sense of consciousness is like somehow altered by like all those mushrooms, or like I don't know, maybe it was
That it kind of developed from there.
unlocked or something.
Mm.
Well, not like consciousness itself, but like the nature of our consciousness.
Yeah, but basically what I wanted to say, maybe it was the wrong study, but I remember reading something about how when they were put on it and they had MRI scan, they could see uh parts of brain that weren't really active lighten up.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I'm pretty sure me and Ewan spoke about it because I remember that having that conversation. Do you remember what it was?
I remember on, like, if you just take a general scan of the brain on LSD, then like all parts of the brain light up. So when you're having a visual experience, you'll also trigger an auditory experience in your brain. Because and then everything is also this. I don't know if you can see this in the scan, but there is a um, there is like working together of different parts of the brain. So um, you get these weird kind of mixed experiences of the world. And yeah, I think that's what the scan shows, that like everything lights up and your brain gets hyperactive.
Yeah, and like because all these like new parts of the brain are like suddenly overreactive, that's why people theorize that psychedelics are associated with increased like creativity and like problem solving and stuff. So there's like actually companies in Silicon Valley that like do this microdosing thing when they're like
Hmm.
trying to code and stuff. It's super weird, super
I can
cool.
definitely see the benefit of that.
Yeah, and like a lot of they talked about like a lot of these like Silicon Valley pioneers. A lot of them did like guided LSD trips in their like formative years,
Yeah.
and
I
like
think
they.
it's really important for it to be guided, because
Hmm.
if like, especially if it's illegal,
Yeah,
you kind of have to do it in a back alley. That
oh,
that
for sure.
that substantially increases the risk of like a bad trip
Yeah.
or something like that. So you're obviously gonna have bad experiences. Um, but if it's legal and you have centers, just like you have centers for, I don't know, I guess gymnastics or something, then people can really get a benefit from it. But if we keep drugs in the dark, so to speak, then people will only have negative experiences from it, like both from a usage perspective and from like a crime perspective.
100%.
I think one of the main mistakes that are made is grouping drugs that are completely different into just one broad group, saying these are bad drugs. All of them should
Mm,
be treated the same, and people caught with this will be
Hmm.
punished the exact same way. Which is like
right.
a
Yeah.
flaw, right? Because
Hmm.
something like a magic mushroom is not the same as cocaine or not the same as heroin, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
What are the what would the implications of legalizing psychedelics be?
Of,
Mm,
of a wide use or the legalization?
Like if tomorrow they declared psychedelics are illegal.
I actually think that depending on the country, probably, I don't think it'll be a huge deal, because I think, unlike things like crack, where there's cultures around it. Not saying like there are cultures just around crack, but like if you grow up in a violent neighborhood, then you're gonna get exposed to that, and you're gonna be pressured to use it. Um,
Right.
I don't think there's like crime-ridden communities that are using psychedelics to escape from it, because it's too strange, and it doesn't have a kind of a you don't get the same feedback as you would from like a kick from a stimulant or something.
Right.
Um, so I don't think there will be like, I don't know where, I don't know who wants to take psychedelics but is deterred from it because of the law. You know what I mean? I don't know how
Right.
many people there are, um, because I don't know how large the punishment of it is either. Maybe it's not that large, or it's probably large enough, but you're probably not going to be sentenced to years in prison. Um, I don't think there'll be that. I think the main thing, and this is probably what they're afraid of, is like a cultural and political pushback. I don't see any political advantage either of legalizing it, and you're probably going to throw yourself under the bus if you're going to be the president that says, "Hey, it doesn't make sense that this is illegal. We should legalize it." Um, I guess you could say the same thing for weed, but I think psychedelics probably have an even lower usage rate and applications than weed does. Like weed is just something that you can have as a replacement to alcohol and maybe to cigarettes, depending on how you use it. Um, but for psychedelics, it's a very specific way that you have to use it, and people don't just, oh, except for microdosing, I guess. But you can't um, just use it more and more, and then everyone's widespread using it.
Yeah, I guess that's why even the demand is. I mean, that's why if once the demand is there, then I guess we could see actually legalization. and only if it's only being used as a microdosage, then the demand isn't quite there like weed or other.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, like
I would.
the big hope
Mhm.
and the way they're trying to push psychedelics or like at least market them to like the federal government right now is as like a medical like therapeutic treatment. Because like
Mhm.
that's usually the like standard path to like legalize drugs. That's how they like did it with weed, and that's how they're planning to do it with psychedelics. So yeah, like basically how it works is they have like these trained kind of like therapists, honestly,
Mhm.
that that are trained to guide trips.
So kind of,
And
yeah, kind of like a psychologist that
yeah,
knows the pitfalls and stuff.
yeah, for sure.
I think it's kind of ridiculous that medically it's still illegal. I
Hmm.
mean, you
Yeah, for
have
like
people
research.
who have nothing, and you're essentially feeding them poison to treat,
Hmm.
their condition with like like not very successful results, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like antidepressants and stuff do this like wonderful job. It usually
Hmm.
leaves these people feeling much worse.
Yeah, honestly, antidepressants
Sure.
since the release, they've actually like the effectiveness has actually gone down because like the placebo effect is not as strong as like time goes up as time
Right.
goes on.
Right.
So like now, if in like in a lot more clinical trials and like real world observations, like antidepressants don't do significantly better than like a control placebo. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, more than that, I mean, you have something that's not working,
Mm-hmm.
and you're willing to. You're not even trying to find something new. I feel like,
For
or
sure.
at least trying this.
Yeah.
I think another issue as well is that a lot of like Western medicine, it just tries to treat the symptoms and it just kind of tries to shut your body up that you can keep grinding. Whereas I get where Eastern medicine, I guess psychedelics would come in here as well. It's more about it's fixing the cause. So I think what psychedelics do to your brain, and I mean I might be wrong about this, but it detrenches your thought patterns so that you don't slip into old ways of thinking. And I guess when you're depressed and you start thinking about one thing, then you immediately slip into other things that you really don't want to be thinking about. And Western medicine will shut that up, but Eastern medicine and like psychedelics will, I mean, the East and West thing doesn't really make sense. Psychedelics come from everywhere, but like psychedelics would make sure that, well, if with training, it can help you to just be mindful of where you're slipping into instead of just trying to shut it up. Um, you can you can actually just calmly control it and take power back over your brain. And it's like a
Yeah.
long-term solution. But the problem is it's not profitable because why would you cure something if you can treat it forever?
Right.
What like if you have like two like let's say I'm a pharmaceutical company and I can like synthesize like pretty good LSD and I can control its usage. I have different strains that have different benefits and I train like these psychologists to administer it. Let's say I get like $1,000 for this. 1 second. Let's say I get like $1,000 for this, or like $5,000 even to treat someone for like an hour or like a 2 3 hour trip, and then that person is cured. That's
Mm-hmm.
like it's goodwill, but that person is not going to spend $200 on antidepressants per month at my company anymore. So I'm really the incentives aren't lined up to actually help people with these things. There's an interesting thing that that I've been taking. It's called lion's mane mushroom. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's not a psychedelic, but
Interesting.
um, it 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 protects the myelin sheath around your axi
Mm-hmm.
for your neurons. It protects the
Around your
myelin sheath.
axion.
Axiom, yeah. I always forget what that's called. Um, and so it helps with the transmission of signals, and so that helps just in all ways of protecting you against certain things like dementia and it has a bunch of benefits, and it's been pretty cool, I guess. And you don't really experience anything different, but supposedly it works. But this guy that makes them, his name is Paul Stam Stamos, something like this, and
No way, he's
he said,
fully in the book. There's
Mhm.
like a whole chapter on it.
Yeah. So what he talks about on the Joe Rogan Experience is that you can't. I think you can't buy the rights on mushrooms, so it's not a profitable business. You can't. How do you call it? It's like copyright. You can't license the use of a certain mushroom in a certain way. I think there's just some laws around that. So no drug companies are jumping in on this because you just can't get the same profit margins as you could if you treated all of those symptoms individually.
Right. Which is scary to think about, right? Because look at it that way, it's like how many other things could be treated, but we're just willingly doing them
Like, yeah,
for
like
profit.
ignoring them. Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
So
like,
mhm.
go for everything.
Yeah, I was just thinking that there's absolutely no incentives to legalize it, or like no economic incentives to legalize it, or to um, yeah, or to produce it on a mass scale, because everyone acting out of self-interest, that's not really how it would
Hmm.
work. Um, but it's only people that actually care about others and care about the whole world working. They're
Right.
the ones trying to push this. So it
Hmm.
kind of has to be a consumer-driven thing where you have to be buying this stuff to like Ritik said, to build up the demand. And because only with high volumes will they actually be able to make some profit over it, because the margins on a unit basis just aren't worth it for any company to invest in.
For sure.
I think a
But like,
weird paradox. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go.
Okay, a weird paradox that I was thinking of is so you criminalize these things, you don't allow research for them or anything, and then people who push for it are pushing using like anecdotal evidence, right?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like ironic because they can't show any real research because you've criminalized it completely and don't allow for research, but at the same time you say, "Hey, we're not going to legalize this because your only evidence is anecdotal."
Hmm.
Right? You've just created this like endless loop.
Yeah, and that keeps the people in power who want to be in power.
Right?
They keep control over it, because ultimately, if you do something illegal, um, the cops are going to show up at your house, and you are going to get arrested. Like, no matter who you think has the right to do what and who has the power.
Wow.
It's actually pretty crazy. George told me a story about um, he had he has friends, and I think this is near his university, and they apparently there was some noise complaint against
Hmm.
his friends, and the police came in while they were sleeping that night, like later that night, and they
Wow.
came into the house and they were looking for stuff. I didn't really exactly follow what it was, but like these guys entered without the knowledge of the people who were sleeping there,
That's
and
wild.
that yeah, and they just searched. And apparently in the UK, it's uh, people have a kind of submission relationship with the police,
Hmm.
where you can people aren't really surprised at that, and people don't really fight back against that.
Hmm.
That's the kind of thing where I think like, damn, you get one bad cop and he feels like I have the right to I have the right to enter any house that I want, take anything that I want. That's just really, really too scary for me. Like if you get
Yeah.
like one bad cop that's just having like a bad day and he like hits your kid or something, the possibilities are endless for that once you allow that kind of behavior.
I
Hmm.
mean, there's dangers for the cop as well, right? And if
Hmm.
you just have a random person enter your house, a lot of places
Yeah,
guns are going to be drawn.
Hmm.
yeah. I've become a lot more for that, by the way. like just in general. I mean, if you're living in a city, it's not really that important, but if wherever you are, just knowing that when shit hits the fan, that you're able to physically dominate another person, it's a good security to have.
That's intense.
Yeah, I mean, it it would be horrible to shoot a human being, but I I think the horrors of being defenseless and not being able to protect your family in like a crazy moment, that that's that's worse. And if someone comes in, it's like that's on them.
I just
If you're
I just feel
sleeping and
like you
someone enters
shouldn't.
your
Yeah.
house,
I just feel like you shouldn't need a gun to like. Ideally, if you have a society where like not that many people have guns, like most societies, I feel like you wouldn't. And if you had like effective, like policing and like employment, economic stuff, I feel like you wouldn't like need to have that extra layer of protection because A, the person entering your home probably isn't like dangerous enough that you need a gun, or B, there just
Because
like isn't a person entering your home.
if no one has guns, then no one needs guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true actually. It's kind of like game theory.
Yeah.
People need to give up their guns and give up their security for everyone else to give up their guns and security. I can see that.
I think an interesting analysis would be like, um, I guess like, well, maybe not so much an interesting analysis now that I think about it, but like gun violence, tracked across like how lenient gun laws are in like states. Wait, I would have taken that.
Uh,
Sorry.
I think gun deaths go up
Mm-hmm.
um, with guns. Like I mean that sounds like incredibly obvious, but
Mm-hmm.
it it would actually it's it's profound if you're thinking about safety and gun ownership. And I think the most, I mean, I've probably said this before, but the most persuading argument for me is that wherever you are and whoever you are, if you buy a gun, your insurance premium goes up. So
No.
insurers are these guys that are like calculating exactly what the premium has to be for the outcome of the company. So they know that if you that like they wouldn't change the premium if they didn't know exactly what they were doing. Um, or if the guns made you safer, then obviously your premium would go down because that's for the advantage of the company. But in fact, the likelihood of death, and it's mostly by suicide, that goes up if you buy a gun. Um,
Yeah.
and that's pretty crazy to me. So definitely that correlation will be there. But it weirdly comes back to this idea of personal freedom for me, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of weird and it's really American, I guess. But like, what if the government just decides like now's the time that that we're gonna take over this certain place, or
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna take control, like in this lockdown situation, like that thing in California where people are snitching each other out. It's scary situations. But one second, I have to see where I want to put.
I think the important thing to remember with something like government, especially the U.S. government, can't just whatever
But
they
I think to Ewan's point, if like the government did go like tyrannical or whatever, um, like in this day and age, you would need of like a reasonably like well trained militia to contest with the U.S. like armies, like I don't know, drones and tanks and missiles and stuff. Like I don't think this man's like personal horde of like 20 like AR-15s is gonna help
That's
fending off
actually
the
something
army.
that this is something that I used to argue before as well, and it's completely true. Like at this point, even if everyone is armed, they're not
Mm-hmm.
armed and organized.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're completely right. That argument doesn't hold anymore. Hey, do you think that people's interest in guns will subside if they've had uh, a psychedelic, like a guided psychedelic experience?
To
They'll
bring it
stop
back.
having,
That's a
they'll
trip.
stop having a, they'll stop having a like us versus them mentality.
Hmm.
They'll be a lot more inviting and open.
I mean, maybe
And
if
just,
if the therapist was like intending to do that, to guide it that way.
I don't know, man. I feel like the love for guns here is much
It's
more
why.
deep rooted than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than just like safety and stuff. People like enjoy collecting, enjoy
Mhm.
shooting at the range and hunting and things like that. You know? Every like AR-15 owner, someone who's like is not necessarily a malicious person, right?
Right.
Majority of them do it because they just enjoy the guns and they're safe with them and stuff like that.
Right.
So, you know,
Hmm. So more people are interested in guns for the kind of the entertainment and the activity more than the element of personal safety.
right? I think so.
I think
Mm.
also people. Okay, let me think about what I say first. I think people dislike anti-gunners more than they like guns, in my opinion.
Ah.
Yeah,
Um,
Mhm.
because like I think the gun debate has become so politicized,
Oh
um,
yeah.
and it's been like so associated with one party, and like because of like the NRA and all these sorts of people, um, well, because of them. Sorry, I'm trying to focus on my Catan. Because of them, like anyone trying to like reform gun laws is viewed as like against the founding fathers, wants to take away your freedom and like all this sorts of stuff.
Hmm.
So it just has like a lot of negative connotations more than like people like being like, I want to keep my gun.
it's
I think
less
that
about the guns and more
yeah,
about you're encroaching on my rights.
yeah.
Mm.
When like your right
Yep.
is to form a like a well organized militia or whatever the words are in the Second Amendment. Like not to hoard assault rifles. I'm sorry.
I think this is another place where psychedelics would come in. Then is
Hmm.
that that tribalist mentality of like the left versus the right.
Yeah.
That that's super duper strong. Like you know what your people like. I know what my uncle thinks about Obama. I think the same. Yeah, that kind of thing, because he's my
Hmm.
uncle, and this is what my school friends think, and uh, it has to be true. I have to think like them because they're a part of my group. And but then the psychedelics would break um, those false realities, you can call them, of tribalism, because really
Right.
it's just people deciding what they want to believe in or don't want
Hmm.
to believe in, and then people might be more reasonable, more fluid, more moderate between political parties, and then a reasonable debate comes in where they're not just defaulting to, oh, these libtards want to take away my stuff. They would be
Right.
more like, okay, wait, why are they saying that? And or even if it's like a negotiation of policies rather than just
Hmm.
hatred on both sides.
Do you think it's too late for us to ever come to that kind of realization? Okay, we need to drop this whole left versus right thing and just like look at things
Well,
from
I
an
don't think so.
unbiased perspective.
I think the people would be happy with like more parties. Like imagine how happy Texas would be with a Texan party. I think
But
like I think it's just the like political establishment is so entrenched and they're so invested and they have like a deeply vested interest in keeping the two-party system that like what the people want doesn't really matter in my opinion because I would think the people would want more parties. I think there was a huge percentage of people who said that they were satisfied with neither Clinton nor Trump. Um, and like
oh,
every
independent
election,
party, she took away enough votes from
yeah,
Hillary for Trump to win in a lot of the states.
yeah,
Forget her name, Jill Stein, I think.
Green Party, yeah,
I think it's never too late. Like if you look at the grand scheme of things and Um, if you look at what, sorry, one sec. If you look at just like the scope of time and how long we've had those two parties, like I mean, someone could just nuke the United States, then we don't have those two parties anymore because we don't have that country anymore. Um, is that I mean, it's probably too they're probably too deep in their issues right now to solve them,
Hmm.
but like in no way are those issues going to be there forever. Yeah, the thing is, no one really thinks about that long term because their term is only 4 years and their incentives are only for this quarter or for this year.
Yeah.
It's everyone has to think short term and everyone has to do political favors even with their
Hmm.
opponents or
Hmm.
with people in their party, and they can't think reasonably. They only have to think what their tribe is thinking, otherwise it'll be political suicide, like professionally for politicians. So
Right.
it's the incentives are just so screwed up. So you'll have this entrenched system for a while.
I
Um,
think
mhm.
we'll drive ourselves into the ground before we manage to change it.
Wow,
Think so?
that's a pretty scary realization.
Yeah. My dad was talking about something like this, but more in the context of why we should vote for Bernie Sanders. Um,
Mhm.
but if you take his main point, it was that you don't get someone who fights for the poor and fights for literally the majority of this country, like the middle class and lower class. Eventually, you're gonna have a revolution, right? Like an uprising,
Mhm.
Hmm.
because people can't live this way forever. It's working
Yeah.
now, I guess. Sure, the rich will get richer, but eventually there will be some sort of breaking point. I mean, to put it in crude terms, things might go to shit.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
moment. That's when we'll finally wake up and realize that things need to change. Like the current system works, the short term, like you said, in the long term,
It's
it's just we're doomed.
for the longest time I've been thinking that that's going to happen in India, and I really thought that like during this pandemic there's just going to be no support for poor people, and that this is
Hmm.
finally going to be it, and this is going to be the time where everyone goes crazy. But now, like 1 month into quarantine, like that seems totally unreasonable to even imagine. And yeah, it's just that I believe in that breaking point, just from a logical point of view of how long can people withstand suffering and inequality. But I don't see any evidence of anything to support this idea of an uprising. So it makes total sense, but it just doesn't seem to apply practically.
Right.
It's crazy. But our time spans are also really short. Like we've only been alive 20 years,
Right.
and there's been like 200 years since the American Civil War.
Hmm.
Stuff happens, but I think our systems are set up in such a way that you have to shoot yourself in the foot so significantly these days. Um, like if you break the system, then and your money is in the bank, right? Like where
Yeah.
does that? Now you don't have any savings. So you like in a digital age, you have to have a complete self-sacrifice to be a revolutionary. And for most people, it's just not worth it for them.
Things continue the way they are. People will have nothing to lose. Right? They're literally fighting for their survival at that point.
Sorry, what was that?
If things continue the way they are,
Hmm.
eventually people will have nothing to lose, and that's when things get dangerous, right?
Oh, so okay, so you mean like that breaking point where, like, let's say I lost my job and my kid is sick and this and that. Same thing's
There's
happening to my
nothing
friend.
for you.
I mean, like
Hmm.
eventually, yes, but I think like history marches on. Like there were probably like similar like worries in like the French monarchy or whatever, and like revolution, and like we moved past it and we accepted it. So like maybe whatever's on the other side is like good and we don't really have to, I don't know, worry. Or maybe we should be like ushering in. It's like, I don't know, breaking point. I'm not very much of an anarchist or revolutionary, far from it. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I was actually very
I mean,
hopeful
we
for
actually have
Bernie.
a constitutional monarchist. Do you mind if I call you that?
Hmm.
Like the constitutional monarchist in the chat. What does he have to say?
I don't know. I was just thinking
Hmm.
that it wouldn't be as I don't know. I don't know if I agree with the whole eventual breakpoint and revolution will occur. I think people nowadays just normalize it and just go with it um and yeah, I guess maybe it'll become about survival. Yeah, I'm mostly quiet because I'm really not sure what to say.
None of us
Yeah,
are sure. I think we're just
yeah,
clobbering whatever comes into our.
that is fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not just I don't know. I don't like to just
Hmm.
say it without having like a proper thought about it. I guess as that is a drawback of our podcast. But
Yeah.
but
I
yeah, I don't
totally
know.
get
I don't
that.
know.
Maybe you should do psychedelics to break that mindset.
Yeah.
And whoa, we're back. Jesus
What a
Christ.
segue.
Okay.
What a
Where did we
segue.
go? Wow.
Yeah,
Oof.
maybe. But yeah, with psychedelics and how going back and changing the topic a little bit, if you guys don't
Mm-hmm.
mind,
No, go
would
for it.
be yeah, with computer science as a computer science major, I think that is pretty good. And I didn't know actually that Silicon Valley does it. And um, I don't know if Ewan told me about it or if someone told me about it and I forgot. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. It would be cool to work there for.
Yeah, I think
Oh, yeah. A lot of
the
folks who work on
microdosing.
the internet, like did guided LSD trips back in the day. But yeah, continue, Ewan.
Yeah, I think the they describe the microdosing thing as just kind of like a cup of coffee in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not noticeable effects. Like it because you take something like a 16th or or half of that, half of the 16th of a tablet, and you take it through intervals of the day. So you don't really notice that you're on anything. I think someone
Right.
could microdose without their knowledge. Um,
Wait, what?
but but it helps them in pattern recognition and things like that, and just
For
thinking
sure.
and kind of grinding. So I think that's how they use it in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I definitely agree. As like there are points when I swear. So I was talking to Rohan about this because I needed his mom's help about this recursive problem,
Uh-huh.
and I was really stuck. I was stuck for it for like 2 to 3 days, and there was a little hope that from Rohan's brother, but I think it was mostly even me being intoxicated on weed when I got it.
No way.
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it was really cool.
That's right.
Also, haha, suckers.
Can we
Had two
pause for a
victory points.
second? What just
Oh my
happened?
God, it's legal. You can totally talk about it. Wow. Wow. Way to flex on us, Ritik. Okay. That's.
One
Mhm.
sec. Are we playing again? I want to play again.
I'm down. I have time.
Uh,
All right, one sec. I'm gonna pee.
I'm down. Wait, is Gotham still in?
I'll stay on the podcast, but I'm not going to play.
All right. Cool, cool.
Um, I
Wow.
guess I have a random question. If you
Mhm.
were to do psychedelics, which ones would you want to try and why? In what setting?
Mm, I don't know, man. I think I would want to do like acid. That's like a lot of people's first choice, and I would want to do with like a guide. Usually, probably just like me and that person alone. But then like after that, I think I would want to do it like without a guide, but in a very like I don't know, stimulating like nice, comfortable environment. Maybe with like one or two people I'm super comfortable with
Do it while podcasting.
while podcasting.
Yeah.
And I feel like the technology will just destroy me.
No,
I don't
we'll
know.
meet up. We'll meet up and do
I
it.
will meet up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for you guys' information, I haven't seen any. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I've seen any of these people for like 1.5 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And honestly, for like the last 7 months, I've at least been in like very poor contact and another technology. But like kind of fun, dude. I was thinking about it, and like we're getting to the point where like I knew you guys in ISH for 2 years because like that's how long I was there, and like it's almost been 2 years since I left and since I've seen you. But like, isn't it whack how we're still kind of friends?
We're
Like whack,
Yeah,
but
strangers.
like
crazy.
cool. Yeah.
I actually consider you more of an acquaintance, Rohan. Just
Good to
to be
know you, man.
completely honest.
Uh, all
I would
right.
like to try the
Well, thanks for coming to the
microdosing.
podcast, guys.
Wait,
No, I'd be interested in trying what Ewan was talking about because I've heard from somebody that make something called mushroom tea, and you just sip that throughout the day. Sorry, and what he said was he would get bursts of like periods of concentration
No
that
way.
would like slowly fade, and then he'd get like another like spike in concentration, and be like just phasing in and out of like these intense like periods of concentration, right? And said, I don't know. I mean, he said that he got a lot of work done.
That's so interesting. Wait, what did you say you're doing? You in Lion's Mane?
yeah.
That's so
But
cool.
is that? Wait, one more thing. Sorry, this is kind of off topic. How do
Hmm.
you how do the people in Silicon Valley make sure that they're really focused on the task and not distracted with um
With like other
with the
things.
Few ships in the sky.
well-being? Yeah, because sometimes when I'm coding and well, this is not really psychedelic though,
Mhm.
but I get distracted easily,
Right.
and
Right. So
yeah,
you have to kind of train yourself to that, to not
Yeah.
get distracted. But
yeah.
I think again, like if when you're microdosing, you start like super small to a point where you don't really notice you're actually on
Hmm.
anything. So they would just do their normal coding job and kind of just decide to get into it, and then they just do it. Wait, Gautam, are you coming?
Not for
No,
the
No, I'm
year.
not. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so they would. I think you can kind of train yourself, go to higher doses of microdosing, but I think what they really do is it's kind of just like drinking coffee. Like you don't really get more distracted than you normally would be.
I think because with microdosing, you're not actually getting high. You're not
mm,
gonna like
No.
get a painting and be like see swirling and like all that kind
Hmm.
of stuff, right? You're just yeah, like you even said, it's like a hit of caffeine.
Right.
mm,
Just feel it like in the back of your mind. You're not actually high.
For sure.
yeah, but definitely interesting. I would love to try it and code. Be,
Remember
I
the
think
failed Canada trip, Ritik? We should revive that.
we should most definitely revive that.
well, we can't
I'm
anymore.
telling you. Yeah, it's fine. Oh no, the recent. I think U.S. Canadian borders are still open.
I mean,
Yeah,
like
but
not exactly, obviously, but
it'll be a
Yeah,
bitch to get out
yeah,
and
yeah,
get back in.
for sure,
I
for
mean,
sure, for sure.
like once COVID clears and the new republic rises, I mean, like then.
Yeah, I'm down.
I think another problem with having or keeping it criminalized is people who want to try it
Mm-hmm.
getting it from these shady sources
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and honestly don't even know what they're trying sometimes. It's almost just as dangerous, I feel like.
Did we talk
For
about
sure.
that? I swear, most of these conversations, I feel like I've had them with someone.
Yeah, these are like people have these conversations. Um, it's for me. I always relate it back the to the U.S. during the Prohibition era, and just like what they did was they prohibited alcohol, but all they did was they just made it more dangerous. And You have to get it through legal means from people who make it illegally and transport it illegally, and you increase your police expenditure, and it's worse for everyone, everywhere, like for the taxpayers, for the consumers, everything. But the reason that this is how it circles back to that culture question again. They
Right.
didn't decriminalize it for economic reasons. They they did it for moral reasons. They did it because they were like, we cannot support this. Um, and I guess that's maybe where people are still getting stuck now, where they're thinking, like, sure, people are doing it anyways. Sure, people are going to get in some way and it's unsafe right now. But there's absolutely no way that um, the, the the organization that's responsible for these people, namely
Mm-hmm.
the government, can morally support something. I think, and like the prohibition came from these Christian ladies that were um, that just that believed that alcohol was a sin and that it was wrong and it was ruining the society. And I mean, to be fair, was it? I think it was right before prohibition that they started distilling more higher concentrations of alcohol instead of drinking just beer. They started drinking like whiskey, but they started drinking it at the same quantity that they were drinking beer at, like with lunch and stuff like that. So I guess there was kind of a need to draw back a little bit in America, but they did it from like a moral point of view. Like what if we think something like murder is illegal now, right? And last time I checked, I don't know, I'm not really up to date with my facts, but uh, and if you want to get someone killed right now, you need to go through some shady means,
Right.
and maybe you're putting yourself in danger. But but the government can't be like, hey, we should really make it easier for people to kill each other so that they don't have to go in the back alley. And I know that um, killing people has a more direct link to the damage of others, whereas if you're just like on weed or on heroin and you're in your apartment not really hurting anyone, that's different. Although you can talk about the secondary effects, but maybe that's where people are holding back. So what are some of the um, the dangers or the dangers of drugs that the government can just be like, there's no way we can morally allow this and still consider ourselves like a responsible organization.
Well, I think you have to consider you're doing it in your home with your kids around. That is a huge issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mainly, young people getting their hands on it is another issue.
But I guess it's like, I don't know, we already have that problem with like alcohol, and we like, well, maybe not effectively and maybe not that well, but we have like ways of dealing with that. You know,
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
like child services and stuff.
Right. And
It's
I
like,
think
it's like
like
honestly one of my favorite things to do when people like talk about like how bad these drugs are, just like draw an equivalency to alcohol.
right. Yeah, that it definitely
Yeah,
it
it
breaks
shows
any argument down immediately because
it shows how much of this like cultural, unobjective thing it is.
Mhm.
If you've seen the Midnight Gospel on Netflix,
So
the
good.
Yeah.
the first episode, they talk about how the drugs themselves are not inherently bad.
Yeah.
It's the people in the environments that make these things bad, right?
Hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, love that show. Definitely did not give me the inspiration to actually push through with this idea.
I just need an animator.
Yeah.
Um, the what was the thing? Yeah, definitely with alcohol. Like if you look at just the like it's the most widely used drug, but it's the most deadly drug that we have. So if we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about any kind of safety issue or moral beliefs based on safety, then um, you really can't justify legalizing alcohol.
Right.
Something that coming back to the murder example, and again, I don't have the numbers, but if you're a young guy in your 20s and you don't have much going on, and you develop a drug habit, and you one second, you develop a drug habit and you don't have much to live for, or you don't have much to lose, is a better way probably of saying it, then um, like mugging a family and putting someone in danger. Oh, balls. I just made a mistake. Putting someone in danger is really not out of the realm of possibility. Like if heroin is your big thing, or if meth is your big thing, and these people, you could just mug them and you can get like 2 hits, and that's like good for the next day or so. That's really an easy decision to make. And that's where the murder comes in, because if we legalize highly addictive drugs that'll be used by the masses, then it is equivalent to putting other people in danger.
Right.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily true though, because I don't know the exact study or the exact numbers, but it was done in Portugal when Portugal became essentially like the drug capital, right? I think it was heroin.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of tourists were going to Portugal because heroin was easy to get there. They do it, and I mean, things were going to shit there. And so what they did is, instead of this like mass ban crackdown on heroin, legalized it and used that tax money to set up these like relief clinics, I guess you could say.
Yeah, where
People
they
who
have
were
like
found
pain
with
needles
heroin
and
and stuff
yeah.
given help instead of being taken to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, I mean the rate of heroin use there dropped significantly after they did that. I feel like it's a much more humane way of taking care of a problem, especially when you have something highly addictive drugs, right? Not everyone who does heroin wants to keep doing heroin because they want to be like crackhead, right? They're
Right.
stuck in this cycle. Even if they want to get out, they can't because it's just so hard to stop taking this once you start, right?
Yeah.
And where are
Exactly.
they supposed to go, especially in America? Like, who do you go to?
And it's
You're most
interesting
likely
because
going to end up in.
psychedelics were actually some of the earliest research was about treating addiction, and it's shown like maybe not as much success as the other stuff, but it's shown some. It's interesting.
Yeah. But you have to think about incentives and impressions, or
Mm-hmm.
like perceptions again. Like um, if if you have to, well, I guess it's kind of like it's a bit broad, but if you have to kill one American, let's say, to save 5 Americans, that's not
Right.
a justifiable thing. So in the same kind of moral way of thinking, um, legalizing drugs is bad no matter what. Like killing one civilian is bad no
Mm-hmm.
matter what. No matter what the potential. And I mean, Gautam, I 100% agree with you. Like, we should look at it like with numbers and just see what's the cause of it and how to mitigate it. That's legalization and treatment. And I think the amount of tax revenue that you can get can fund like university for a lot of people. And if some people want to sacrifice themselves like they do with cigarettes and like they do with alcohol, then that's fine. We can improve our whole society. But I think the thinking of a lot of people would be that no matter how many people you can help, you can't harm one person or one group, no matter what the external benefit is,
Yeah,
or the
sorry,
secondary
I'm
benefit.
just looking for some version stuff that we can just give us like a better idea on this work.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Talking about like perceptions and stuff. I guess like one way to do it would be, I mean, he talks to like some folks who have like these nonprofits that basically, sorry, somebody's distracting me.
Nice.
It's still being recorded, Mo. Yeah, they're talking to me right now. So, we're guest featuring my mom and my brother. They're kind of in the background the whole time. I'm quarantined in Chicago right now. I can't go home to India. No, it's like been like 1 hour, 10 minutes, Ma. You've ruined this entire podcast. It's over. We definitely can't edit you out of this. Um,
It's cool. We
what
can
was it?
restart.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. You guys, just go scroll back to the top of the script, guys. Let's do this. Um, yeah, it's a fast 7. Um, perceptions. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's, I guess like you'd like slowly have to ramp up use and like expose people because I feel like once
Yeah.
a person takes it in the therapeutic setting, I think they're a lot more. They would be a lot more willing to accept decriminalization and stuff like that. Actually, I think it was like George Bush's someone in like the Bush administration, an open-minded person, obviously, but like he kind of like took an interest to psychedelics and he's a part of the apparatus now. So it's, I mean, I don't think it's
What's the
impossible.
apparatus?
There's like a couple like lobbying slash organizations that fund research and like try to influence policy and stuff like that. I forget the names, but they're like in the book. Again, great book. I would highly recommend. But this is gonna hurt.
So,
But yeah.
so something where perception comes in. I've been reading up about, and it's kind of related, about disruptive companies,
Mm-hmm.
and um, you, it's never in the interest of a company to serve. Yeah, a disruptive product is a product that goes from a lower segment and
Right.
then builds up to
Mm-hmm.
being to you make a cheap product that doesn't serve all the needs of the you make a cheap product that doesn't serve all the needs, so your main customer line won't
Yeah.
use it,
Yeah.
but then um, because you can make this technology cheaper, you just add all the functionality that's needed until you have a cheap product that meets all the functionality of your main organization. And so when you're in a company and you're making financial decisions and you're thinking, should we, like a really good example is hard drives.
Right.
Should we make the hard drives that we have better? So there is this whole thing about the size of hard drives. So you get like an expensive but bulky, expensive and bulky hard drive, but it had like 500 MB or something like that, and that's what just all these companies were using because they had huge computers and large processing power, and there was no need for a small thing. It was inexpensive
Right.
and had no storage, but um, so when you're making a decision as a company, should you invest your research and development into making the the large storage, the large hard drives better, or should you invest in starting to build the small hard drive, which serves a really small community, and it's not gonna bring you the same margins. So they're thinking quarter to quarter margins, and it's always better from that point of view to innovate your existing products and not to make smaller products that disrupt or that would later be better and cheaper. So it's the same thing, I think, with politicians.
Right.
They you always have to look out for yourself and the perceptions around you, and you just kind of have to serve your market and do something slightly better. And
Right.
systematic change, there's not a, even though it will benefit everyone in the long run, shaking things up, and the specifics of that I don't really know, but even though it will benefit everyone in the long run, um, no one will vote for you, no one will put you in, and no one will support you politically, like from your colleagues. I think colleagues is probably like a huge thing that no one really thinks about. It's not really about the vote, it's about doing political favors
Yeah.
for your opposition and your own party. So doing the same thing, just slightly better, is in everyone's best interest, um, rather than actually changing the world for the better.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like the amount of resources and thinking that you have to put in and convincing that you have to put in to set up this whole legal drug industry,
Right.
versus spending all that time and money in improving education,
Right.
or yeah, just building a bridge or something like that. Like no one is. It would be complete political suicide to go one way, and it might not even happen.
Right.
Right, because you're using taxpayer money, the taxpayers that vote for you. How are you ever going to convince people that helping crackheads and drug dealers is the way to go?
Well, that's what. So I think the responsibility to shift perception, I think that does not lie in the hands of politicians. I think we can't expect them to do that. I think it has to be like private individuals, like funding research, lobbying for like research permissions, and um, I don't know, it's like media, I guess. Like, but now we're getting to like deeper questions of how do we like affect change
Yeah.
as like individuals, I guess. And I
Well,
find it a fascinating question. Yeah.
how we can discuss it and be specific to the topic. Like,
Yeah.
what are the grassroots system that individuals can have to support certain drug legalization? Like, how did it happen for weed?
Honestly, not sure. That'd be a good like case study though.
It's, I guess people showed interest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually, that happened in during the Obama administration, right? Like
Yeah, but it was
gradual
like nothing
legalization.
federal happened. It was all like
Mm,
state level. And I guess like, well, for one, like usage increased. So like, I guess more people realized it like wasn't a huge deal. Like even like politicians and people in power like used it at some point.
mm,
Um, but I guess like I don't know, the usage increase was still like fueled by illegal act or like legal and often like dangerous activity, which is something you don't want obviously to be associated with like I don't know any movement we're promoting.
think,
But I think like media these days is really powerful, like social
yeah,
media especially. I think the cost to reach a large audience has been reduced dramatically, and I don't know. I could see people
a
leveraging that.
lot of people don't understand externalities either, right?
Mhm.
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 It is a huge positive externality to fixing the drug problem
Right.
because it's not like a direct benefit to regular taxpayer.
Exactly.
It's hard to convince them that this is something that they should spend their money.
Yep.
Also to think that long termly, right?
Mhm.
With with um with I guess so I think all of us were talking about this about economics and accounting whether to be mandatory or not,
Yeah.
and this kind of is pretty much that economics should be mandatory in terms of high school, just because well then we can then people can see the longer run in terms of economic policies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is really limiting, and uh,
I think that at least the case in America is that the the the, the states have a lot of power, and you can't just have the guy on top say like, you know what, I don't care what you guys think. There's this huge economic benefit, and we have to jump on it for the prosperity of our country. Like that, that's just not how it's set up over there. That's probably how it happened in Portugal. They didn't lobby forever and convince these old guys who don't really know what's happening to completely change their minds. I think one guy probably at the top just said, "Hey, this makes total sense. This is what the study showed. This is what the economic benefit will be, and we can't afford to lose this opportunity."
Yeah.
And I think that it's really hard to enact things without having that total control. Um, that being said, it's also really hard to give up that total control. And yeah, it's a huge thing
Maybe it's not
because you.
like
Mhm.
even. Maybe it's not like maybe it's not unreasonable to expect political bravery from time to time. I remember when Australia was pushing gun reform through, there's like a couple politicians who basically torpedoed their own careers for the greater
Mm.
good. And I guess the question is like, how do we create people like that as well?
I mean, could you argue that Sanders was one of those people?
I'm like maybe, but I feel like Sanders is more like slowly over time shift the political spectrum rather than like big flash destroy my own political career, but like change politics, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about Sanders, but I don't want to get into that. Wow, this is about what? It's getting long, man. Are we gonna edit this down, Ritik? That's gonna be fun.
like
Are we
I
gonna edit this
usually,
down?
I was thinking we should just do it like Joe Rogan and just put it up and see what happens.
Uh huh.
But
Yeah,
but we could edit it. But I still like that. I like how that we're not professionals, right? We're
Yeah,
just
for sure.
yeah. So I like that we have your mom featuring me saying
Mhm.
good
Agree.
night and
Mhm.
Agree. I think it
night
makes it
night
more
rest.
casual.
Yeah, it makes it
It's more
more
chill.
casual. Yeah. And that's why and in middle like we just play Catan and stuff like that. I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and
Makes it a conversation between
yeah,
kids.
it's just us friends talking, right? It's
Yeah.
not yeah. And yeah, I think I think it's just still I've always been a really strong believer of this that everything is just about getting the proper education and spreading as much education as possible. And I think even this thing just boils down to that.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys agree, but yeah, I guess.
I mean, I agree, and I'm like a big fan of education as well. But I think the way we set up like education is that I don't know the people entrenched in power like set up how the education works. So
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So I was about to say that we should definitely take evolution right out of the education board immediately because so as a joke because that's what people think at the time and
mhm.
people this is kind of an issue with politics as well because politics isn't science, politics isn't objectivity, politics is perception and culture
Yep.
p- organized into change. So
Yep.
like if we start spreading this word, then what are the consequences of that? And definite full disclosure of everything is probably not how politicians want to run the education system. Yeah, and I just think that the whole world really isn't scientific enough.
Mhm.
Scientists don't have enough power in the world. Like if you look at just climate change and all of that. We don't listen to scientists until there's like a huge crisis, and we don't listen even then, and we don't want to hear about them until it's
Right.
essential that we know about them, or if they're going to promote industry. And
Mm-hmm.
again, like government, they don't really think like an industry. They don't think like a
Right.
business. They don't think, okay, what's the return of investment going to be if we put the right scientific education in everyone's heads. They just think about what's the perception that I want to create. How do I keep my Christian voters? How do I keep my Catholic voters? The economics and science is really, it's only a tool to be used when advantageous in the moment, but it's really not a fundamental. I don't think of power these days.
When
Like
there's a
I like.
worldwide pandemic.
Mm, yeah. Well, I mean, I totally feel you, but like the thing about like I think like the reason why from the start like countries weren't really set up as technocracies. I think the reason is because sometimes technocrats can be wrong. So I guess like I'm not saying people are wrong about climate change and stuff like that, or they're wrong in our case, but I think in economics for sure, I think economists can be wrong. So like I totally think like you look at Singapore, it's like so technocratic, like highly efficient government, and you look at America, like don't get me started, and you think like, man, if the scientists were in charge, but like who knows how we would
Well,
have figured out if the scientists were in
is,
charge for the past 200 years, you know?
is he saying that scientists should be in charge, or is it politicians and scientists should be working hand in hand? You should
I think
have
scientists should have
politicians.
power.
Yeah, so you should have
Hmm.
politicians, right? The face of the country
Right.
doing
Hmm.
what politicians should be doing. These politicians shouldn't act like they are the experts.
Yeah.
Because, for example, the job of the president covers so many fields. It's essentially impossible for one person
Hmm.
to be
To be an expert, yeah.
have yeah to have the enough technical experience to do that job well. I think what's important is to have someone who puts the right people in charge, right? You have a
Hmm.
scientist running like climate change, scientist things, I guess. I don't know how to put it. And you have economists doing their job. And I think it's just important to bring all the right people in charge of
Yeah.
acting like politicians are, the know all, they know everything, they know exactly what to do in all situations.
I actually think this is a huge issue because, like, if um, I don't think that any politician thinks that they are the expert because obviously, like, if they have just a moment of self-reflection, okay, what's the structure of a DNA molecule? They just won't know. Um,
They
the
just project
problem
themselves
is,
out. Hmm.
yeah. So they will put scientists. They will take their advice, but the problem is that scientists don't have power. So, like, if Fauci says something, Donald Trump will run that through his filter of, wait a second, is that beneficial for me? And
Hmm.
then he'll make the decision. Whereas if Fauci was the president, not saying that he should be, I don't know anything about, know that he's in charge of some things there scientifically. Um, he can say that I don't. He can say that I don't care what your perceptions are. I don't care what you think about your ratings right now. I I think we have a responsibility now to act for the country, and this is what the science says, and this is what we will follow. So the politicians know what the scientists are telling them, and they have scientists. The problem is that the scientists can't enforce the science. They can't they can't take a stand and say they can't stand up to the politicians. So I think that
Right.
not it's obvious that scientists should work with politicians, but for me, I think that scientists should actually have power over the decisions that are made.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they're actually just useless.
Or politicians should be open minded
Or I think like,
into
or people should be open-minded enough to like elect scientists or technocrats, I guess. So I think like that's
I,
that was the idea
Mhm.
behind the system of like if people really want a technocrat, they can elect him.
Mm,
But like again, we're placing so much faith in like people, and that's the question. Like, should we?
Look at Germany, right?
Yeah.
Merkel is a chemist.
Mm-hmm.
mm.
Getting the coronavirus success to our listening to the advice of scientists, the science
You kind of cut
understanding
out a little bit there,
importance.
for me at least.
Yeah, for me as well.
Oof.
But I said, look at Angela Merkel.
Mm-hmm.
Germany. She was a chemist. She was a chemist, right?
Right, right.
People are crediting their successful handling of the coronavirus to her being a scientist because he
Mm-hmm.
knew the importance of their opinion and
Mm-hmm.
needed to trust them.
She was she was elected, right?
Yeah, yeah. Multiple times.
And yeah, so she was elected, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's still, and I mean, I still think that that's why I guess democracy is not perfect because
Right.
it's more about how well you're a talker than about how well like pull it. Actually, yeah, never mind.
Definitely. No,
No,
that's definitely
yeah,
true.
yeah. You're
Your
fully
your
right.
ability to hustle and manipulate is more important than actual knowledge that you have. Like this is very clearly true in a democracy. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a popularity contest. It's about how well you can fool people in into following your party actually who supported you.
Yeah, and I guess like, hmm.
I don't think scientists are like that. I
Don't you think
think.
it's
Sorry? No, no, go ahead, go ahead. I'm done. I was just.
okay? I was saying, don't you think it's important to have someone who's articulate of your
Well, I think it's, mm, well, personally, I think it's important to have someone that like the people like want, I suppose.
country?
But I guess like when the people's wants are so often like out of order, and when like people's wants are influenced by the people already in power, I could
Yeah,
see
yeah,
that
yeah, that's what.
how
Sorry.
that resulted in this, in like this conundrum we're in.
Yeah, that's what. People. I don't know. People. Politicians often are like project what people want,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but what I'm trying to say is, it's just that people don't know what they want, and
Right.
politicians just show what, um, like, well, people do know what they want, but I don't mean it that way, but like people show that, sorry, politicians show what people really want, well, really want in, I don't know if that makes sense.
Like
Yeah.
they can sway the because
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
you
no,
have a if you're a
sorry,
politician,
sorry.
you have the mic and you can sway opinion.
Yeah, sorry, one second. Let me just finish my thought
Hmm.
and then I guess I can structure it better.
Wow, I've really been
Ian, can we
struggling.
get some of that music?
Been struggling for fucking sheep so much, and now that I want to build a settlement, like this map is angled weird. Oh, there we go. Got it. Not last place, boys. Made it.
I need to leave now.
Uh, well, that
Talking to
is
you
a
guys.
shame. Got them
Yeah,
signing off.
we could just conclude here.
Should we?
You guys
Yeah,
can
I
Yeah,
continue.
Well, I guess the viewers kind of know who's gonna win this Catan game, so there's no point.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they can see my screen now. I think I've got some stuff up my sleeve.
A couple victory points up there.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
We'll just see, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
I
hello.
think we should still finish it, and then I guess we could stop it.
Oh, I want to
Finish
finish
it.
the game for sure.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to finish
Another
the game
game,
for
yeah.
sure.
I mean,
yeah. Finish the game, and then that'll just put the podcast there. Any final words, Scott?
Um, VPN sponsor us.
please.
Waiting.
If you sponsor us, we will feature you. I will make the completely false claim that NordVPN makes the Catan experience better. I will make that claim. As a premier Catan gameplay channel, we will do that for you.
All right,
And
I'll see you guys later then.
yeah, well,
Talking to you.
See it?
wait, let them stop. Hello, are you there? Is he
Yeah,
gone?
he's here. No, he's
I
here.
said at the start we have to decide a name for the podcast, real quick. What do we think?
Man.
We'll think about it. We'll think about it. Do you
Yeah, we'll
guys
think.
come up with it now?
This
No.
this this will be untitled.
Okay.
Cool.
We have a channel named Paradox. I like that name.
Paradox, but that's like a game publishing
Yeah.
company. Paradox.
Yeah.
Wait, it's like PvP, like Paradox podcast. That's kind of good.
Yeah, I like that.
Shall we?
I
Yeah.
could go with that. Yeah,
Paradox Cast.
soon we can
Yeah.
start playing Paradox games as well.
Sponsor us.
Sponsor us, please.
Yes. Dude, we'll get Dollar Shave Club like you said.
I know. Well, is this the birth? Paradox podcast?
Yeah.
All right.
See
Yeah.
you guys later then.
Yeah.
Bye.
Well, I guess we'll see you later too, since we're ending the recording now.
Yeah. You can say back to Craig.
Are you sure? Can we wait like one turn so I can land so they can like? Oh, never mind.
No. Keep the. Oh no, we can keep it going. We'll record till the game's done.
I will
Yeah.
record, I guess, but like,
Yeah.
no, I don't know. Whatever.
What?
Doesn't matter. It's just a time game.
Sorry.
Well, should we sign off like for the audio, or should we like keep talking?
We should keep talking. It's
Are
just
you talking?
yeah. It'll just be the dark ages of Paradox podcast where Gotham isn't here.
And we just meme.
Oh man, dude, I don't know how to end the game. I really don't.
How about just like not this turn? Like,
Sorry?
how about like not this turn? How does that
I
sound?
cannot because I don't know what to do because I need to build cities
Yeah.
to get a point. There's no way I'm gonna get to that different island. And
Bro, just like
actually,
build like more settlements.
yeah, I could build settlements. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, it begins. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I thought today went pretty well. I think
Literally,
it was
that's
pretty cool.
oh my god.
Sorry.
Please.
I think we just. I don't know if we should. I think we went around a lot of topics, which was good.
I kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we didn't just stick to the one topic. We just went with the flow. It was more of a casual conversation, right?
Mhm.
It was
And what I
definitely
like.
useful to have the topic though. I like
Yeah,
that.
for sure. It was a good starting point. Yeah. And I think.
Does someone want to give me a sheep? I'm sorry, but like I'm really desperate here.
Yeah, I can give you a sheep for a brick.
I'm down.
I can give you more sheep for a brick, but sure. Yeah, okay. Can we all just appreciate how beautiful that 10 placement was?
Did my character's head change?
Maybe.
It's
Head?
looking towards the side now. Do you see it?
I think you've been microdosing, Ewan.
Man, that's freaky. Usually the character's looking to the front like you guys are.
No way.
I knew it. Oh
I'll
my
shoot
god.
straight at you. Like, you know what I mean?
I have to discard 6 resources.
That's a new Ewan. So like, where do we want to take the podcast? Honestly, are we gonna keep where? So we're gonna keep doing the like each time someone else brings a like a unknown topic. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Okay.
was really cool.
I like
Yeah.
that. Oh, the
Wait,
goal
what's
that
the
I'm talking about.
benefit of it being unknown?
I mean, I feel like it'll just be like more authentic opinions. It won't be like me. Like today, I just like rattled off everything I like read in that book, and I feel like if we know, then people like might take the time to like read up, and then like I don't know, might be watered
Yeah,
down.
Yeah,
that's what I don't know.
The
I
original.
guess yeah, I quiet down if I don't really am not really prepared for a topic,
Interesting.
I guess. Because I don't wanna say something
something
that
that might be
that I'm
incorrect.
yeah, that I'm not.
Yay! I beat you, Rohan.
Go off, Ewan. You deserve that.
It's also recorded. There we go.
Wait,
You and
I didn't.
yeah,
I
you can
wait. I had a victory point card. Is
yeah.
Yeah.
that counted automatically?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
Okay,
that's
cool.
why it showed 7 for us.
That's
But
what over there.
Ah,
yeah, so
I bamboozled you guys.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, gets pretty obvious if you have 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So we'd rather do like.
Yeah,
So
we
you'd
still
rather like prepare.
no, I like it. I'll get used to it, I guess, with
Okay,
time.
that's cool.
Yeah, with
I'm glad.
time I'll learn
We
to.
really would love your input, Ritik.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's funny. I don't really. So this is kind of off screen right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of funny because remember how we were talking about we just needed one person to just like let it pass or like be like with scientists to give them the power for like
Yeah.
this thing. And I
Yeah.
think that's where sort of the constitutional monarch comes in,
Mm-hmm.
and he or she just has that power to do it. You
I
know?
Yeah,
know.
like
I'm
a
super
Ataturk
resistant
type
towards
figure.
that.
Like
Sorry?
I think Kemal Ataturk is always like my number one example for like benevolent like dictator. Basically, he took over Turkey after World War One when the Ottomans died, and he kind of transformed Turkey into this like modern state, just like
Yeah.
aggressive about women and all this kind of stuff.
But yeah, of course. But that's the thing. My problem with me identifying perfectly as a I guess constitutional monarch person is well, it'll lead to like a rise of another Hitler or something like that,
Right. I mean,
Or
I guess
Stalin.
like yeah, I guess
or Stalin. Yeah.
Turkey's been all right so far, but Erdogan's iffy. But maybe I shouldn't put that on the podcast. Maybe we'll be assassinated by some shitty-looking Turkish man tomorrow. Taken to the embassy. Oh wait, that was the Saudis. Never mind.
Hey
Oof.
guys, I need to pee and then probably go. Uh, sh-
All right.
shall we cut it here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice to hear.
You know,
That was
one
great,
more
guys.
thing.
Loved it. Yes, Ritik?
Let me let me just leave it. Let me just the
Craig.
remove Craig. Craig's by the way our best friend here. He
Hmm.
listens to all our conversations,
Yep.
and yeah, he's a great listener.